Hey everyone. Today I want to talk about something that sits pretty much underneath everything we do at ID Fitness. If you train with us for a while, you probably notice that sometimes we do things a little differently than you see at most gyms. For example, a new client might come in and before we even load them under a barbell, we spend time with them working on breathing, or maybe two people who both want to get stronger end up doing completely different exercises. Or someone walks in with limited shoulder mobility and we start talking about the rib cage or their hips. And if you're new, that could be a little confusing. You might be thinking, why are we doing this instead of just lifting? So today I want to explain how we think about training in the human body, not in a super technical way, but in a way that helps you understand why we do the things we do in the gym. Because once you understand it, the reasoning behind it actually starts to make a lot more sense. So for starters, most fitness advice you see online is built around simple answers. Got bad knees, strengthen your glutes. Bad back, strengthen your core. Bad shoulders, do rotator cuff exercises. Now, here's the problem. Sometimes those things work, but sometimes they don't work at all. And when they don't work, a lot of trainers don't really know why. I ran into this early in my career. I'd give someone what I thought was the right exercise. Sometimes it worked great. Other times, nothing changed or their mobility never really improved. And that was frustrating because it made me realize something. The human body is way more complex than the simple advice we see online. The more I coached, the more I realized that the two people can have the same limitation, the same goal, and even the same exercise program, yet still get completely different results. So the question became, why? One of the ideas that really changed the way I look at training is this. Movement is basically the body responding to forces. I mean, you think about it. Gravity is a force. The ground pushing back into your feet is a force. Your body, your muscles in the body produce a force. Weights produce a force. Even every time you move, your body is trying to organize itself so that it can deal with those forces. Now, here's why that matters. If someone's body isn't managing those forces well, you could start to see things like limited mobility, stiffness, awkward movement, or strength plateaus. But the interesting thing is that the problem isn't often what we think it is. For example, someone might say their squat feels terrible. Most people would immediately assume their legs are weak. But sometimes the issue isn't leg strength at all. Sometimes the issue is how the body is organizing itself under load. And when we change that organization, the squat suddenly feels easier. Same strength, same person, different strategy. We see this all the time at the gym. We'll have two people working on their squat. One of them looks smooth right away, dropping really easy. The other person feels stuck and frustrated. And it's not effort, it's not toughness. Sometimes all we have to do is adjust their stance a little bit or change the variation and suddenly it clicks. Same person, same strength, it just fits their body better. Another big thing that influences how people move is something really simple: structure. People are just built differently. Some people have longer legs, some people have shorter legs, some people have wider rib cages, others have narrow rib cages. Hip structure can vary person to person. All these things influence how your body moves. Here's a simple example we see in the gym. Two people might want to improve their squat. One person could drop straight down and it looks effortless. The other person feels stuck halfway down and no matter how hard they try, they can't go any lower. Now, a lot of trainers would immediately say you need more mobility. But sometimes it's not mobility. Sometimes it's just how that person is built. If someone has longer femurs, their squat is naturally going to look different than someone with shorter legs. So instead of forcing someone into the exact technique, we try to find the position that works best for their body. That might mean changing stance width, adjusting foot angle, using a different bar position, or sometimes even choosing a different squat variation. And once we do that, suddenly the movement feels more natural. Now, the part that surprises a lot of people is this. Why do we spend time on breathing and soft tissue work in a strength gym? Because breathing isn't just about oxygen, and soft tissue work isn't just about loosening up. Breathing and soft tissue work can actually influence the shape and position of your body. When you inhale, your rib cage expands, your diaphragm moves, your spine and pelvis respond. All these things influence how the body can move. And sometimes when someone might feel tight, what's really happening is that their body is stuck in a certain position. We sometimes see this with actually shoulder limitations or upper body strength plateaus. Someone might come in saying that their shoulder press feels very limited when they do an overhead press. Most people would immediately start doing shoulder exercises, but sometimes the issue is actually the rib cage. If the rib cage can't move well when you breathe, the shoulder blade often doesn't move well. And if the shoulder blade doesn't move well, the shoulder joint starts to take extra stress. So sometimes we'll work on breathing or positioning first, along with some soft tissue work. And once that changes, the shoulder suddenly moves better and feels less restricted. Not because we strengthen it directly, but improved the environment around it. When we look at how your shoulder moves, we're not just looking at your shoulder. We're trying to understand how your body is positioned overall. Because sometimes when your shoulder feels limited, it's not a shoulder problem. It's just the position your body is stuck in that day. Another thing we try to move away from in our gym is the idea of perfect form. Now, don't get me wrong, technique matters. But the idea that there is a perfect way for every human being to move just isn't realistic. Your body is naturally asymmetrical. One side of your body does things differently than the other. Think about walking. You're constantly shifting weight one leg to the other. Your torso's rotating, your arms swing. Your body is always moving in slightly different directions. We have a heart that moves more towards one side, a liver on the other. We have 3 lobes on the right side and 2 on the left side. We are not built in perfect symmetry. So instead of chasing perfect symmetry, we try to help people develop movement options because problems usually happen when someone gets stuck in one strategy. Someone might arch their back when they lift, or they always shift their weight into the same hip, or they always breathe into their chest. And then that becomes their default pattern. And if that's the only strategy they have, eventually it can create limitations and plateaus. So our goal isn't perfection, it's adaptability. The more options your body has, the more resilient you tend to be. Another idea that shapes how we coach is that training is a lot like running experiments. No coach can perfectly predict how someone is going to respond to an exercise. So instead of pretending that we have all the answers, we approach things with curiosity. We might try an exercise and ask, did their movement improve? Did their limitation improve? Did their strength go up? And if the answer is yes, great, we keep going. If the answer is no, we adjust. That mindset actually makes coaching a lot more effective because instead of forcing someone into a rigid plan, we adapt based on what their body is telling us. So what does that actually look like when you walk into ID Fitness? Well, first, we try to understand how someone moves before we start loading them with heavy weights. We might look at how your shoulder moves, how your hips move, and how your body is positioned that day. Again, not to overanalyze things, but just to get to a starting point, because that helps us decide whether we stay with the plan or make small adjustments that day. Second, 2 people with the same goal might train differently because their bodies might need different things. And then third, we try to focus on long-term progress, not just quick fixes. Sometimes that means doing something simple that looks boring at first. But if it improves how someone moves and feels, it sets them up for better training down the road. At the end of the day, our goal isn't to make training more complicated. It already is. It's actually to make it more personal because everyone who walks into the gym is different. Different structure, different history, different starting points, different everything. No 2 people are the same. So instead of forcing everyone to the same program, we try to understand what you need and build from there. And when you do that, people tend to move better, get stronger, and actually enjoy the process a lot more. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.